That was weird.
I know. It really is. But hey, that's
anyway,
us.
Whatever.
Woo. Okay. Cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
Cheers to you guys.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome to
Creative Happy Hour.
Season 2. Yay. So exciting. It's only the second episode of Season 2 and we are back. Are we feeling overwhelmed?
I'm always feeling overwhelmed. Always.
We figure that like New Year is a time that people start to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And as creatives, we do not have that off button. We're always like creating and trying to multitask and trying to balance out our busy, crazy ass lives. So we thought we would talk about overwhelm.
How to override overwhelm.
How to override.
Hopefully.
I like that. How to surf over overwhelm. Being on that
surfing
wave,
over overwhelm.
Right? The wave of chaos. We're drinking Surfer on Acid.
Which is made from Jägermeister.
You guys are gonna like this. This is our first Jägermeister bomb of the year.
We started with Jägermeister because I happen to have some in my freezer.
Oh, that too. Yeah. So sometimes overwhelm is using the things that you have to find a solution.
Yeah. Well,
like
my German friend gave it to me as a gift, and in Germany they drink it as a digestif.
As a digestif when you've had too much.
Too much.
When you had too much,
you
you
ate
need
too
to
much.
Digest that shit.
You need to move it out.
Get the Jaeger.
And so I never touch the stuff because I think it's disgusting.
Today
so
is
that's
the
how
day.
we founded it.
We
and
did.
Then
We found it. And we did, Jägermeister plus, well, it's an interesting story. This cocktail was invented by a bartender on the Hollywood Boulevard. And there used to be a cocktail that was called the Surfer on Acid, but it was like what? Like
it was like banana
and Bailey's and coconut schnapps and disgusting.
Nasty
so
stuff.
he kind of streamlined it, took out all the nasty shit, and that's another way of taking out overwhelm.
Yeah,
is getting
get rid of the shit you don't
of the
need.
shit. Exactly. So he streamlined it to Jägermeister, coconut rum, and pineapple juice and a little bit of lime or lemon. So that's what we've done. Voila. Let's taste it. See if it's good or gross.
It's got a weird brownish
It's
color.
got a baby poop brown. Yeah, let's cheers again.
Cheers.
Wish us luck. We will report back in a second. It's very frothy. Frankly, it's kind of vacation-y. I need a vacation at this
I'm
point.
like, wow,
You're like,
going to the beach?
You're like, this is
Go
not
to the
bad.
beach when you're over. If you can't,
This is
have
very-
a Surfer on Acid.
This is not bad. Like, you totally don't taste the Jägermeister.
Not at all.
Right?
That stuff's nasty.
I know. And this, well, see, that's what's nice is I guess you can sweeten the deal when you're feeling overwhelmed, like just adding one thing. And so this is, I'm going to just like front load one of the tips because I like this tip. When you do something that you love, when you're feeling overwhelmed, you can kind of stop that feeling because you've sweetened it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that's kind of a cool little front-loaded tip. But we're going to give you so many tips on how
you're going to get overwhelmed.
You're going to get overwhelmed with how many tips we have for you. But we do have some really useful things on, you know, what overwhelm is, how to avoid it, how to deal with it once you have it. We're also going to talk about, well, let's start talking about who kind of got us on the track of this thing, which is Marie Forleo.
Yeah.
And Marie Forleo has this book that's Everything is Figureoutable. She often talks about avoiding overwhelm and kind of dealing with overwhelm. And she tells a lot of really cute stories. We got sucked down that rabbit hole of Marie Forleo videos with Oprah
and like
and all
Super Soul Conversations or Super
Conversation
Sunday or whatever.
Yes. And so she's a great storyteller, and she does kind of, you know, motivate you to get rid of that overwhelm, because being overwhelmed doesn't help anyone.
No, it's a waste of time.
It's a waste of your
honestly
time.
just gets in your way. You create all this chaos, and then you can't really focus on what you want to be focusing on.
Absolutely. And I think
so you got to sort it out.
You do have to sort it out. Like, I think that when you are overwhelmed, you tell yourself that that's kind of a good thing, that you're busy.
Yeah.
And that busyness is not awesome. That's not an
I
optimal
think
state.
People use, I think, busyness as it qualifies them somehow.
Makes them important.
It makes them feel important.
Yeah, it makes them feel like they're successful.
So stressful and I'm
busy.
so busy.
Yeah, people need me. People want me. I have things to do. I have places to be. And that's not always true.
Yeah, it's not a good idea to form overwhelm or busyness or stressfulness as an identity. Not to forge that as an identity.
Right, and to tell yourself a story that kind of goes that you've been overwhelmed, you always will be overwhelmed. Like, this is what happens
There's
to
no
me.
way out.
There's no way out. I'm that person. I'm stuck. And I think we all know somebody like that. So we're going to be kind of giving you guys some tips.
Me.
I know you. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to, like, we'll just be giving you guys some tips and tricks. And we'll be telling you some little personal stories along the way and some not personal stories. We won't name names.
No, we won't name names.
We'll protect the innocent. And then we're gonna
not so innocent.
Right? And if you guys want some really clear, minus the personal stories, minus all of the overwhelming babble that we tend to feed you guys, the blah blah, the drinking part that goes with the thinking part, we do have our creative shots that you can check out. They're going to be separate from this episode. And we're gonna have some very concrete, simplified.
Yeah, they're just really
advice.
like
a shot.
Concentrated shots.
Yes, so you'll get that later.
To get you right where you need to be.
Get you right where you need to be. So don't forget to subscribe because those will come into your inbox if you are subscribed and did the little bell ding ding button.
Ding, ding, ding.
Or if you subscribe to the podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts, you will not be overwhelmed with anything. You'll just get that targeted information. Just
targeted information. I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
Love it.
Bring it.
Okay, bring it. So have you felt, when last time you felt overwhelmed, like could you pinpoint that you were overwhelmed, or did you kind of get so deep into it that you're like, what is happening to me? I feel like when you start getting like all panicked, you're just like, you lose that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me when it happens. It happens a lot, and I'm raising a child by myself, so
there's some overwhelming shit
it can be
on.
Really overwhelming between like school and ballet and doctor's appointments and my own work and everything. It's like, and everybody wants something from you, know, and all the time.
And we're actually going to have one of our creative shots is actually on helping people around us who are overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be kind of useful because we've all dealt with that. Like either as parents or as bosses or as, friends, we've dealt with that. So I think that it's something that's going to be useful.
Yesterday, we had a conversation because we were supposed to have a meeting together.
We were supposed to, but we had to cut that out.
Yeah, I couldn't go to the meeting because I had my daughter had a paper due, and it was very, everything's really chaotic right now.
You had to decide what was
and right now she has an impending audition.
Yes.
And so this month has been really roller coastery and just homework, just the overwhelm for a 13-year-old is huge. It's huge.
And it's a lot of mood and drama and psychological more than reality.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot.
So I'm navigating all that with her, and I feel like as the mom and the main caregiver that I got to keep things really, really stable.
Absolutely.
And I can't be too far from
I mean, it's frustrating for you, but I kind of feel like you having to focus on this kind of prevents you from spiraling out with all of your other obligations.
Yeah.
Like you've had to prioritize this, and that's just what, like when I was doing the college applications with my son, I felt the same way where I was like, oh my God, I can't do anything else because I'd have to deal with all this stuff. And sometimes that felt overwhelming, except like it's more of, for us, their massive drama is more of a bite-sized chunk because we're taking a lot of the emotion out of it, at least trying to.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that the way I look at it is, okay, this audition is happening in 2.5 weeks, something like that. So it's really, I look at it as like, okay, it's going to be a little bit roller coastery,
and then it's going to
end for a couple weeks, and then we're going to get back into normality a little bit.
I love that.
So I think you have to think about when you're in a chaotic time, when you have a deadline, when you have, you're going through a divorce, you're going through.
Yes.
You have to remember that
this
it's a temporary
absolutely
moment in time, and you have to give yourself that perspective.
Totally.
You have to.
Like we've talked about the power of now, and we've talked about kind of living in the moment, but I think that with the overwhelm, you do have to look outside of that bubble to realize that like this is a moment in time.
Right.
It's not my forever. This is not my story. This is not who I am. This does not define me in every way, shape, and form. And, I'm going to be able to move past this. And
and you can look back at other times in your life where you went through things.
Yeah.
And think about that. Like, okay, well, I got through that. This isn't as hard as that was. I got through pregnancy. I got through childbirth.
Yes, that's good. The examples.
Look back and remember, your own capacity.
Well, we had talked about like the negative stories that we tell ourselves, like once we're overwhelmed. And I think that so much of overwhelm is the feeling of lack of control. And that's kind of the reason we wanted to talk about the
everything's
surfer.
happening to me.
Everything's happening to me. And that's why we wanted to have a drink called the surfer
Yeah.
on acid.
On
We'll
acid.
on acid. But the surfing is you're above something that's super powerful, more powerful than you, potentially very destructive, but you're on top of it. You're surfing on top of it, and you're in power.
You're going with the cycle of the waves.
You're going with it, and so you're in control, but also kind of giving into it.
Yeah, you're surrendering
and I think that that's
it.
kind of the magic formula of, you know, being able to not feel like you're the victim. You know, if you're getting crashed on by the waves, you're a victim. If you're on top of the wave, you're a winner who's surfing and you're super cool. So that's, you know, kind of a cool thing. And then you had brought up
when you're on acid.
Yeah, the fun thing about the acid.
Yeah, you're expanding your mind.
Yes.
You're kind of looking at your own capacity, how, you know, how you can think in bigger, more expanded ways.
Yeah, and don't worry, we're not going to do acid happy hour.
No, we're not going to drop acid on happy hour. But, you know, that is kind of it was a drug to deal with depression originally.
Right, yeah,
it was a pharmaceutical drug that developed to deal with depression.
Absolutely.
And for people that were overwhelmed psychologically. It was a way to take, it's a way to take a trip from your own life.
I like that.
And,
I like that.
You know, that's why they call it tripping.
That's why they call it tripping. And I think that that's great. Like when you are overwhelmed, take a trip outside of your own life and look and see that, hey, maybe I'm not so bad off.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not the only one who's dealing with these things. Maybe this is actually a general state, and start to feel that, okay, you know what? There are some things I can't control, and those things I should put under me or behind me. And then the things that I can control, let me get a sense of power and, you know, kind of some kind of ability from that. So I think
it comes
that's,
from the serenity
really good.
prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Exactly. And I love that you quote that in a creative happy hour where we're drinking
Jägermeister
of all things.
It would happen in Ireland.
It would. Exactly. So I think that that's kind of awesome, like knowing what you can control, knowing what you can't control, and knowing that sometimes not being able to control absolutely every last thing in your life is not the end of the world either.
Right.
You know, so many people are like, oh my God, like so many people think that they're not control freaks, but they are.
Right.
And, you know, as a creative, sometimes you can be a little bit of a control freak just because, you know, you're always tweaking things, and you always feel like you're the one who's molding everything, and you're the one who's responsible for what you're producing, and you're the one who's responsible for the ideas. So like that's a huge pressure.
Yeah, it is.
You know, you're in this pressure cooker, and you're like, oh my God, I have to do it all. I have to be all things to all people. And then you add on top of that, oh, I have to go to work, and I have to take care of my kids, and I have to take care of other people, and I have a life, and you're like, oh no can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But almost everybody can and should. And those of you who cannot, listen to us, and we're going to tell you everything. We're going to make it all okay. So yeah, I mean, I think that that's pretty interesting. So let's think about, so a lot of people get really...
You're not chugging your drink.
Yeah, I'm trying not to.
Why?
I'm trying to control. I'm going to try to control.
The candy?
It's very candy-ish. It's quite delicious. I am drinking it. I'm enjoying it too. You know what I mean? You're like, have more, chill out.
I know. Like, this is happy hour.
This is happy hour. Cheers. I'm really interested in the fact that people freak out when they have an extra project that's piled on top of them, and I think that people need to see the difference between an project that's not actually important, and that goes for like a piece of art that's not important. Like so many times we don't prioritize, and we put everything at the same level.
Right.
You know?
I agree with that. And
so,
I feel like being a single parent, working as much as I do, has really taught me about how much more I'm capable of than I really knew. Of course. I'm often like, oh yeah, I mean, I essentially wing a lot of things. Like, oh, okay.
And that's totally fine. Those are the things that are not as important.
I'm not prepared for that right now.
No,
but you have to remember, if you've lived long enough, most of the time you're somewhat already prepared. Right?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's
yes. Like, you know, and you have the experiences behind you that you can call back on, even if it's only in your subconscious.
It's kind of like that time where you're like, ooh, I have to dress, more formally for this restaurant and I didn't bring anything.
And you're like, I have a scarf in my bag.
Yeah, I have a scarf in my bag.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to put extra lipstick on.
Exactly.
And,
yes.
I have heels in the trunk of my car and I'm going to put those on.
Yes. So sometimes the chaos that is your handbag and that is your car actually helps.
Yeah, just accessorize.
Accessorize with your chaos.
Your chaos.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I like that a lot. Cheers to that. Cheers. That's accessorize the chaos.
Like that? We've done that 1,000
times. Well, Marie Forleo actually says that inner chaos leads to outer chaos. And I'm like that. I think it goes both ways.
Yeah.
But that's quite interesting is that when you have that turmoil inside of yourself, you start to present yourself as somebody who's less professional, maybe less got it together. And that, my friends, is never good because as much as you are allowed to feel the way you feel, but we're telling you that it's not productive to feel that way. When you're overwhelmed, you're not doing your best work. You're not being the best friend or parent. You're not being the best artist because you're overwhelmed. And this is something that you can control. You actually can.
Yeah.
And it's not a good look. Like when you kind of succumb to that, like.
I think you can also kind of, this kind of goes along with the idea of like scheduling sex with your partner, which is kind of lame.
Not sexy.
Not sexy.
But
however,
it
not
works.
having sex is
Also,
even more not
even
sexy.
Less, it's not as sexy
but,
at all, yeah.
I think you can also kind of schedule like, hey, I know, I'll do this with my daughter, where I'll like, I know that it's crazy right now. We don't have time to deal with this right now.
Right.
But tonight when we get home, we will blah, blah, blah.
We'll work on this.
We'll work on this.
Or we'll think
do
about
this. Or we'll go to the store and we'll get what you need for that. I know
Exactly.
that right now we can't do it.
Right. Or we'll reward ourselves in some way. Or we'll do whatever.
So
and
you kind of, you have to kind of section things out and kind of future place them.
Yeah.
So that you can not deal with them in the moment.
Right. And we were saying that,
right.
And we were saying when you have so many things to deal with in the moment, you had mentioned this, and this is absolutely, and I'm that kind of person too. Get it out of your head.
Yeah, get it out of your head. Write it on a list.
Write it on a list. Make a list. And even better than a list, once you have the list, you can make priorities and you can see that so much more clearly. Because the human brain is really not made to stockpile stuff.
No.
It's made to solve problems. That's what the human brain does, is that it's a problem solver or maybe making memories and stuff like that, but it is not meant to be storing all this shit.
No.
We're not, random access, memory on a computer. Like, that's not us.
No,
so
we're
just
not,
put it,
we're
download
not file
it.
cabinets.
We're not.
Thank God.
Right? That's so
lame.
I hate them. Ew,
Yeah,
they're
gross.
They're gross. I hate file
Who
cabinets.
even has those?
Ew. And Jalal has like multiples. He loves file cabinets. He's really into them. He's like, oh my God, let's buy a new file cabinet. Like, no.
For what?
He has a lot of, he used to keep his files. Let's talk about Jalal. He used to keep his files from like 1983. I swear to God. I was like, you need to chuck those. This is ridiculous.
Wow.
You were a child.
That's interesting.
I was like, you were a child in 1983. Like, stop. So, yeah, that's kind of crazy. Okay. Speaking of stop.
Yeah, that's what you need to do. When you're
That's
feeling overwhelmed, just stop.
Stop.
Knock it off.
And that is a really courageous thing to do, to just be like, you know what? I'm being a fuckface. I'm being this overwhelmed freak.
Yeah.
I need to stop. And I think that sometimes it takes somebody telling you, like, hey, take a look in the mirror. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing,
like,
asshole?
Stop. And it's easier to spiral out of control. I think there's this fun and glamour and kind of like car crash, kind of like train wreck glamour to being completely out of control.
Yeah.
It's not a good look though. So it's like,
well, and
stop.
it's not sustainable.
It's not. You can't keep spinning. Like, you're gonna barf at some point.
You could pull it off in your 20s, but you can't pull
You're
it
done.
off anymore. You're done. Knock it off.
Knock it off. So stop. That's like a major first step to avoiding that overwhelm. Like, stop and take stock of what you have going on. Be like, you can't really determine, you can't analyze what's happening if you're in this spiral. Like,
well, I mean, I was talking to this girl in this place that I used to work, and she was like, oh God, she was talking about, she has 2 jobs and she's got this lame boyfriend, she was telling me about all her problems. And then she was like, and I've got like 7 parking tickets that are unpaid.
You're like, pay your parking tickets.
And I was like,
that's
okay.
just one more thing that you don't need.
I was like, yeah. And then they keep like getting, like more
you're like, pile more shit on.
Yeah. So I was like, Oh my God. I was like, just pay your parking tickets.
I mean,
and
minimum.
your life will improve
Yes.
by probably 25%.
Right? Well, that's
Which
like
is a
that.
lot.
That's, yeah. That's
like if they said, we're going to reduce your rent by 25%, I would be like,
yay,
thank you, Jesus.
that's gonna, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. But that's like that atomic habits thing where like, if you can't make yourself make a full good habit, make a fraction of it, like floss one tooth or
sweep the kitchen
one
floor.
Yeah, sweep the kitchen floor.
If
or
you can't vacuum the whole house, sweep one room.
But
Start
that will already kind of put you in a place where you've reclaimed a little bit of control.
Yes.
You've stopped and you've assessed
and you have an immediate result. You have an immediate result that
and I think that's great.
That you can see.
Yes, like doing only the tasks where you're like, oh, I'm going to put in all this work and all this effort, but it's not going to yield anything for a long time.
Yeah.
That's really hard. So that's why, you pay the parking tickets and immediately stop having those fees, immediately stop having it like over your head.
Yeah, it immediately takes stress off. Yeah, so
absolutely.
I mean, those are little things you can do to.
For sure.
I mean, I actually sat yesterday and, I paid my credit card bill. I did all these little things to kind of make myself feel more financially secure.
Right.
I looked at my car loan, I looked at my student loan, and I figured out how many months it's going to take me to pay all of it off.
Right.
And then in my mind, I have this little like, ooh, in 24 months, I could potentially be debt free.
Yeah, that's a gift to self.
In 24 months, it's gonna happen, people. It's gonna happen.
It's happening.
As long as you live another 24 months.
That's all you need to do.
It's gonna happen.
Keep on doing. Just live. That's one of our pieces of commentary that like live. Don't let yourself die of overwhelm. That's a bad thing because you're never gonna get out of it.
Yeah,
that's really bad.
No,
it's really bad. Well, okay, here's another little tip. So let go of some things. So they say, there's a noble art of getting things done, but it's also very noble to know what to let go of.
Right.
And so for me, like, I have to admit, I hate a lot of the domestic arts.
Yeah. I love how you call them domestic arts.
Domestic arts. I hate doing the dishes. I hate like sweeping the floor. My house does not look like a pigsty because I've done just the very sheer minimum that I need to do.
Yeah.
But I don't sit there and try to make it perfect.
I don't either.
Like
I'm
don't
the same.
care. Like I've let go of those things.
Yeah, if I have a sink of dishes and I'm like, do the dishes or go for a hike, I'll go for a hike.
Hike's gonna win every
because
time.
I know that hike is going to be a reinvestment in my own well-being.
Exactly.
Dishes,
not so much. Like, but if you were thinking like an overwhelmed person, you'd be like, and I have to do the dishes, and I have to do the. Is it and? And it's like, no,
I'm one of those fell swoop people. I go in on like Saturday. I do 8 loads of laundry. I'm talking. I wash everything.
So I like that.
I clean the house.
Right.
I do everything in like 3 hours.
Yes.
And then I'm done.
Yeah.
I grocery shop. I laundry.
Me too.
I clean,
so that's something that
we're
talking about. So we're saying when you have things to do and you've written down your list of tasks, start to batch them. Start to break them down into manageable pieces, and then start batching them. So why do one errand over here? Come home, think about stuff, go do another errand. No, do them all.
Do it all.
Batch that shit.
One fell swoop.
Right. And so when you're an artist, for
example. And
example.
then it frees up the rest of your day. Especially if it's a weekend morning.
Yeah.
Get really high on coffee.
And then do it. And then, so I was telling you how I do the social media for every single one of my accounts. I will wake up in the morning and I just do all of it. Boom, boom, boom. In an hour, I'm done. And I really have to try my hardest not to revisit it and that's another psychological thing about, being completely addicted to social media.
Let it go.
That's a different thing. But I do that. If you, as somebody who does the fiber arts, you'll sometimes spin a bunch of different yarns at once so that you have them available to you. Yeah. And I think that's kind of amazing.
So if you want to do a project, you can just do a project.
Well, it's like with pencils, like colored pencils. I used to, have my colored pencils and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to sharpen them all. Not just the ones that I think I need, not just the one that it just makes it so much
They're ready to go.
Faster. They're ready to go. It's like with a cocktail, how people they'll do the mise en place, they'll cut up all the ingredients that they need and they have them there, and that gives you a sense of control. It makes your whole task more streamlined. Yeah. So much faster, so much easier. Yeah. Just to set yourself up. And you were mentioning setting yourself up, taking a weekend morning, being prepared.
Well, yeah, because your week, if you know your week is going to be crazy, you've got kids, you've got school, you've got work, you've got whatever you got, projects, you got deadlines. Pick some time to get really prepped for the week. And then you can just let it go.
Then other things
you
can
you
go
have
by the
plenty of
wayside.
snacks for the kids. You know you have stuff to put in their lunch. You know they have clean clothes at least for a week.
Right. You have that minimum
You know
thing,
that
yes.
you're starting out on a fresh start.
And also
that
I
you're
believe
prepared.
I believe in wrapping up things as well. Like I don't like ending a day or a week with something over my head.
Right.
So it's that thing of like, oh my God, I didn't pay the parking ticket. You know what? I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Because
we do
you're not gonna
everything
sleep
online
well.
now.
Exactly.
Just do it. Get
Just
the
do it.
computer and pay it online.
Right. Like you're gonna wake up and be thinking, or you're gonna have a dream about the damn parking ticket. Like you're gonna have all of these things happening to you. It's not fun.
Yeah.
So I believe like at the, right before my computer goes off or right before my phone goes off, I'll do a last sweep of my emails, of my messages, any messages I need to respond to on social media. And it's the same thing with the painting. Like I like to, if I'm working on a painting or something else, like I'll like to look at
delicious.
It is really pretty good, I have to say. My glass is half full. Hers is completely empty. It's awesome.
It's one of those days.
It's one of those days. But I think that you look, the last thing you do is you look at that painting, maybe have some nice little dreams about it, but like you get to a point where you know that you have some level of control over what's happening. You can't just let go of things in a point that you know to be chaotic, and people do that sometimes where they'll let things go at some point that's not useful, and it's like you can't do that.
Well, it's kind of like that feeling of when you're in college and you always have work due.
Yes.
And you have that like, you can never relax.
You never relax.
And I
ever.
felt like that when I was doing the application.
Oh my God, totally.
I felt like, I feel like I'm in college.
I actually, we've talked about education and stuff like that, and I actually believe that college is one of those things that's kind of anti-creative in so many ways because they force you to have so many things going on all the time that are made to be equally urgent, and they're not your priorities. Like you're in college, and frankly for me, if my interest is English and art and not math, but equal homework due on all of them, you just can't prioritize, and it kind of sucks. But like as adults, we have that advantage that we can actually, you have your work thing, and that's a must do because it's paying the bills.
Right.
You've got your creative stuff, and that's a must do because it's feeding you creatively. But, learn to say no to some projects. Learn not to multitask on a million things all the time. Learn to batch the things so that you start to have a system. I think that the system's so major. When I make breakfast, this is dumb, but it's a little thing that like helps me in the morning. It literally takes me 3 minutes to make my full breakfast. Coffee, and I'm not talking about the cereal. Like this is like coffee with milk and honey. It is eggs and sausage, and I make all this because I have a system.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. I have my system. Most people would be like, oh my God, I'm gonna get overwhelmed. I have to make these eggs. No, I've got my system. It's the same thing all the time. I know what to expect. It's something I like.
No, it's the same. I have the same. I have a system.
And like, one of my friends has a uniform. She's a very creative person, but she's got the uniform. When everything goes crazy, she's got this formula on how to look pulled together. Like what you were saying of like, how can I look appropriate if these unpredictable things happen in a day? She has a uniform that really works for casual or more dressy. And she can add or take away something. She's got those things in her bag and she's done, and I think that that's pretty good. And prepping, like if you know that your hair looks like shit all day, which mine always does, but that's a look. If you know that it's looking shitty, then if you have a last minute invite to something or a last minute meeting or a last minute presentation, you're like, oh shit. And you feel that lack of control.
Well, that's why you should have dry shampoo in your bag and a hair clip.
Yes, a hair clip is a good thing.
And
those of us who look good with clipped up hair, that's a wonderful,
slick it back
wonderful thing.
Hello.
Mine will not slick. Yeah, yours looks great today. Mine is chaotic, but that's why my hair is overwhelmed. It's like my hair is overwhelmed. So another really interesting thing when I was looking on, and I just said something negative about my hair, which I thought was really funny, because one of the steps on avoiding overwhelm is developing the self-esteem to
stop the negative talk.
Yes. Like, oh shit.
I'm so busy. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so stressed.
Like your self-esteem needs to not be coming from these exterior signs of success or desirability or, it's silly. Like if I hear one more person being like, oh, busy. No, I didn't know you were busy. I didn't know it. Like that's not automatically a thing. I didn't think that was automatically something that had to happen. You know what I mean? Like, busy is not awesome and it's boring. Like if I asked you how you are and you told me busy, I'm so busy. I'm so busy.
I say that to you all the time? I'm so busy.
No. Even if you were at work, like you might be tired.
Yeah.
Or you might be like stressed, or you might be, but so busy? No.
Come on. Come up with a more descriptive thing than that.
Thank you. Yes, do. Yeah. Like, even if you told me you were overwhelmed, I would feel a little bit more sympathetic. Right? Overwhelmed. So that would be fine.
Because then you could, like,
because I could solve that shit. I could problem solve
You could send them this podcast.
Exactly. I'd be like, you're overwhelmed? Look, here, watch this podcast. Watch it's so good. Watch this. Listen to this. But, like, if you're overwhelmed, like, I can, you know, at least try to walk you through. But if you tell me you're busy, I'm like, oh, you didn't even think about this for a minute. Yeah. You know? Like,
well, it's almost like they're pushing you away.
Oh my God, yes.
You wouldn't understand. I'm busy.
Yeah, I'm busy. Or it's
you wouldn't
also
understand.
Like, I'm busy, but you're right. There's an exclusionary thing of like, I'm so busy, I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
I've already made my decisions.
I can't even believe I have to like answer
this question. I'm so busy. Right. And that's like good. At least you took the you know, step of prioritizing, but you've prioritized all the wrong things.
Right.
Like, because I think that making room, like make room in your life, because that's what's important. As a creative, you need to make room in your life for what matters.
Right.
You know, or even not even just as a creative, but as a decent human being, or as a person who has passions other than being busy with stupid shit. Busy. Like, seriously, our jobs and our houses are tools to shelter us and to feed us, right?
Right. That's pretty much it.
That's what they are. Like, unless you are a creative entrepreneur who's actually working on your passion, which is great, and you might feel overwhelmed as well. But usually, if you're a creative entrepreneur working on your passion, you have a roadmap because you are so passionate, because you know it's important. And so you're making priorities because you know that you have to get things done. And you're like, bam, 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 bam. You know, I think that's, you know, sometimes I'll get myself in something where I end up running around. I'm like, it's my own damn fault. I did this to myself.
Yeah.
Like, I knew what my priorities were. I chose to ignore that knowledge.
Well, and I think
now
you have to,
I suck, you know?
You know, sometimes when you're in those moments, like, well, why did I do this? You kind of have to analyze it so that you make better choices.
Yeah, make better choices next time.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll make, like, not everybody has the same concept of time and when they should be working and when they should be busy. I mean, for me, for example, I do a lot of my research at night. When my husband's sleeping, I read, I do research, I edit things. So people are like, how do you get so much done? Because I saw you doing this and this and that. And I'm like, well, because I do stuff at night, because I know that I don't sleep that much. But it would be a different thing if I was actually taking away from my sleep. Like, if I woke up every morning like a zombie because I had done that, that would be a major problem.
Yeah.
But as is, it's not a major problem. I don't sleep that much naturally. So it's like, okay, I'm getting this stuff done. Therefore, I can be gallivanting around, looking so busy, but doing, you know, all, like, doing more of the things. But that's something you need to know about yourself. You know, I'm not saying how many hours you should be devoting to this or that. And I'm not saying, like, what might overwhelm you might not overwhelm that person and vice versa. You know what I mean? Like, you were saying how you learned that you're so much stronger, more resilient than you thought you were. I think people can look at some of our lives from the outside and be like, holy shit, how the hell do they put up with it? How do they balance those things? How do they deal with it? I'd be so overwhelmed. And we probably feel the same way.
Well, I hear that a lot from people. I hear like, oh my God, you're a single mom and you work. Like, how? I don't even know how you do that.
You're like, if you were there, you're right. If you were there, you would.
Yes. You just do it. And and you know, and I think people have this idea that what I'm doing is harder than what they're doing. Whereas I think that some of the women that I know that are actually married, and they supposedly have help with their kids.
Which, no.
You know, I'm like, okay, well, you know, if you have a second income and you don't have to pay rent like I do, that might be nice.
Yeah.
But I often think that they are compromising and they're making, you know, concessions that I don't have to make.
Exactly.
Right?
You can choose.
Which might be harder for me.
You can choose your own adventure. I mean, it's hard.
It might be harder for me to make concessions to living with someone who pays my rent than the opposite. You know what I mean? Like, there's this assumption that what I'm doing is harder, but maybe in reality, those concessions that I don't make.
Right.
You know.
No, but also, and I think it depends on the person. Like, for some people, it seems much harder what you're doing, and maybe it is much harder, and they've made different choices. But for some people, they're like, oh, that is much more easy. You know, it's like, it's a choice, and there's no right answer. Like, that's the other thing. Like, you're overwhelmed by this. I'm overwhelmed by that.
Yeah, and it does
and
kind
it's
of
fine.
You know, it used to feel like, you know, I have to be honest, it used to be like, oh, you know, like you get a little bit of sympathy from people because you're doing something that they deem as hard. But the reality is that I feel like, you know, I'm not like, this didn't just happen to me. I chose this.
This was a series of choices.
This was a series of choices. I chose this, and I continually choose it.
Exactly.
Because I could very easily
turn around,
live with someone.
You could have a sugar daddy.
Yeah.
You could.
Well, not for that much longer, but you know, I mean, I could have.
I didn't say how old your sugar daddy would be. Sorry.
You know what I mean, though.
No, I know what you mean. Like, no, that's exactly. And I feel like,
you know, you have to look at it as, you know, is your overwhelm, is your level of overwhelm, what other people consider to be overwhelming, maybe hard, is it really true? You know, you have to be honest. Like,
be honest with your story.
Is it self-chosen?
Yes.
Is it, you know, and own your shit. Don't just
own your shit.
Don't just be like, oh, this is like, this is happening to me.
No. It is a series of choices in every single way.
Because when you realize that you are choosing something, the whole attitude about it changes.
Absolutely. You start to make a series of choices and
you feel more free. You don't
and
feel
empowered.
like, and more empowered. You don't feel like, oh, this shit is happening to me and I, you know, granted, there are times where I'm like, oh my God, I can't pay the rent, or oh my God, no, never. It's never like that. But, you know, or I'm worried about it, or I'm worried about paying bills, or I'm worried about groceries, or I'm worried about money. But for the most part, you know, that is very much less important than the fact that I've made a choice to live you know, by my own terms and my own value system.
Completely. No, you know what's interesting? This is funny. So there was a friend of mine, and I don't know the person she's talking about, but she's talked about her a lot. So it's kind of interesting. A creative woman that she knows who's an entrepreneur, who's a really powerful woman, who's, you know, doesn't take any shit normally. But she had this husband who was totally cheating on her all the time, not treating her that great. A good dad. Dad. But she
used him for something. She needed him for something.
So she was suffering in this relationship, and she was like, this, you know, sucks, and he's cheating on me, and I feel really bad, and da-da-da. Okay. Then she sat down and she thought about it. She stopped. She took a step back, and she's like, what is going on? Do I want a divorce? Do I want this? Do I want that? She was like, you know, no. He's a good dad. I want a house that is comfortable, because he would not, you know, pay for everything. He was able to pay for things, but he wouldn't really, and she was working her butt off.
Yeah.
She's like, you know what? The reason you're around is to be a good dad and to provide. She's like, therefore, I want this house here. You're going to get this house. We're going to live together. We are going to cocoon. We're going to take care. We're going to nest. We're going to take care of the kids until they're X age. And I will put up with this stuff over here. I'm not going to expect anything from you, you know, romantically or anything else. I expect you to be a good father and a good provider. You know what? Having that sense of choices, priorities, and control, she was like, this works for me.
Yeah.
And so many other people would look and be like, oh, I couldn't live with like that.
Yeah.
I'd be so overwhelmed with everything. And she's like, no, this is my choice. And now I've taken the whole narrative back this works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that that's kind of a useful thing of like, stop, assess, reframe the narrative, make your priorities.
Yeah.
And then the overwhelm kind of stops. I mean, I think that that's, you know, it's kind of useful. That's it. Like, I think that reframing that stuff, like that is just a blueprint for fighting the overwhelm. It's like, you know, acknowledge what's happening, define it, stop, take a step back, realize when the narrative is kind of not serving you anymore.
In your favor.
Exactly. And then reframe that, make some choices, get it down on paper, and start addressing things little by little by little, because everything is, as Marie Forleo says, figureoutable. I think that there's one last thing that not many people address, but also as artists, we're very like creative and empathetic and all this stuff. Like, I find that a lot of us with these arts and with being in these artistic communities, I think we tend to kind of absorb the overwhelm of the general community, or absorb the overwhelm of a friend.
Yeah,
or a
we
partner.
might have more sensitivities to
I think so.
Emotional stuff. And and I find myself, you know, it's funny because I have so much going on often And I find that a lot of my friends and people will lean on me because they perceive me to be so capable and strong, and I have my shit together, and and
you become the psychotherapist.
And I'm not qualified on any level to be doing that. However, I tend to get that job.
Right.
And I do have I do have a lot of experience. I do have a lot of wisdom. I do care a lot about people, and I want to help. But sometimes I feel like I do it for more of my ego and as a distraction to not be doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's so true.
They need me.
Right. That's another narrative.
They need me. And then I don't have to do what I'm supposed to be doing.
I so agree with, that's major. That's something where you stop and look and say, is this person better served by helping themselves, or can I actually do something for them?
Right.
One of our creative shots is going to be about what to say to somebody who is overwhelmed. But really, you're so true. You're so right that often it is about what you're telling yourself. I'm so important. I'm so needed. I'm so busy helping others. And no, if we're not qualified, we shouldn't be doing that, because this is not time well spent. It's time taken away from our own work and our own
But you don't
project.
get back, people. You don't get it back.
No, you don't. And I just think that that's kind of fascinating because, when I was working at, and I won't mention where, but I was working at one of my jobs where people would be able to come by all the time, and I became this de facto psychotherapist. And you know what? I found it so exhausting. I found it overwhelming. And why did I? Because I wasn't putting up the barriers.
Yeah, you weren't making boundaries.
I wasn't making the boundaries. And it just became too much. I was like, wow, why are they all in my life? Why do I have to be all up in their life? And it's nonstop and it's never ending. And I didn't see an end to it. And so it's all of those things.
Yeah. Then you start resenting the people that you supposedly care about and want to help.
Completely.
And then what's the point? You're not helping anyone. And then what's the point?
Absolutely. A few little things that you were telling me that last time you were in a situation where you were trying to help somebody who was kind of overwhelmed, and you picked up some yarn and you started.
Oh yeah, I was helping my daughter write her paper, and we were arguing about it incessantly. Yes. And I just felt trapped. I felt like, oh my God, I already did 8th grade. I don't want to do 8th grade again.
I was
kind of irritated, and everything I said was dumb. And even though I passed 8th grade, and
you're old,
it was dumb. And I've never written a paper in college or anything like that. So anyway, we're having this argument, and I was just feeling trapped. So I was like, I need something to do with my hands. Yes. I need something to calm my mind, soothe my mind. So I was like, oh, what do? I'm a knitter. I'm a crocheter. So I found some yarn. I found a crochet hook, and I crocheted. Yes. And
it's mindless and it's calming.
It leveled me out. It was a little meditation that helped me. So, my recommendation is go to your creative things that if you're a writer, write. If you're a painter, paint. If you're, a musician, go play music. If you're
And don't expect that it's going to be don't expect it's going to be like a finished product or something amazing. It's not going to be the best thing you've ever created.
No, you're doing it
it's a tool.
to get your mind, your irrational mind settled.
Totally. Totally.
Because a lot of fighting with a 13-year-old about
not
an
8th
grade
smartest,
paper,
not the most logical.
That was dumb. Why was I doing that?
Why was I doing that? I should have said, no, this is your paper. And that's I was trying at one point to be well, what would happen if she completely failed? What would happen if you let her?
Yeah. We had that conversation.
But when you're in that, you're like, no, it's not possible. And it's sometimes really hard to take that step back. And I think that doing that calming creative craft or listening to some music or doing something enjoyable.
It allowed me to stop my obsessive, controlling mom thing. And she ended up doing it on her own. And it's exhausting even talking about it.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's
overwhelm is overwhelming.
Yeah, it is. And so, everybody knows when they're in it. I mean, I think you have that feeling where you're holding your breath. And
but I think that half the people who are in overwhelm or who are having a panic attack or whatever, they don't know. They don't identify it for what it is. They're like, no, something's happening to me. No, I'm having a heart attack. No, I'm... And there's so many easier excuses and explanations to make. And I think that you do need to identify what it is.
I feel like if you're having that happen, if you're having panic attacks, if you're having freakouts, maybe you need to have a little jar of activities that you can draw a card when you're in that moment. Maybe it's take a bath, make a cup of tea,
have a drink,
people.
Have a drink.
I mean, go do a yoga class, go for a walk. Maybe when you draw the card, it'll get you out of
sports and sleeping and outside eating well, taking care of yourself. The self-care is a major part of dealing. you know, when you're overwhelmed, you don't take care of yourself, and that just makes it worse. You enter this spiral of shittiness. And it's not
and I think I was talking to one of my coworkers is I think we normalize feeling like shit.
Well, that's the narrative.
We get normalizing.
That's the narrative. You're like, I'm so tired. Me too. I feel like shit. Me too. I have a headache. Me too. Yeah.
You know, and it's like, stop making it normal. You don't have to feel like that.
You don't have to
drink your water, go to sleep, get your exercise, eat healthy, stop being an asshole.
Right.
You know,
it's true. And just being able to
wake up, people.
I mean, I know for me, like last week I was feeling really like kind of unsettled and weird. I kept telling you, I was like, I don't feel and then I was like, you know, I think I really need to feel productive. Like that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was like I needed to have that productive feeling. I was spinning around trying to do too many things at once. None of it was sticking, none of it was working, and I was like, no. I need that sense of achievement for like a couple little things, and do the easy stuff. Who cares? Do the easy stuff that you like first. I don't care. Yeah. You know, like do those few things.
That builds confidence.
It builds your confidence. It's that little micro thing that you did that's going to build and build and build. Yeah. And that's the building blocks to final achievement. And I think that works out really well. It's, you know, that's it. So
that's the key to success,
that's the key to success. There you go. I mean, we have nothing else to say. I think we can just end right there.
I mean, if you're not feeling overwhelmed by everything we said.
If you're not feeling 100% better, I think that we have to have a discussion.
Yeah.
Not today, though. Not
today, because we've run out of time.
Because we've run out of time.
The hour is pretty much over,
We've prioritized our time.
To go back to your regular life.
Exactly. There you go.
So sorry for you.
So sorry. But now let us know what you have done to avoid overwhelm.
Yeah.
Comment down below. If you're feeling overwhelmed and you need directions on what to do, I would say subscribe would be number one.
You're like, email Micah. No.
Email Micah. Email us at creativehappyhour@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Or, or just subscribe to any of our channels, maybe all of them. Yeah. You don't need to prioritize. Like, this is one thing where you don't need to prioritize. You'll never get overwhelmed by us.
No, you're just going to listen. You're going to be like, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
and then you can try it out for an experiment. And
let us know what happens. You can comment down below.
Have a surfer on acid.
They were pretty good. I mean, as you can tell, they were very good. And
I mean, I'm going to have diabetes.
The diabetes is coming. But also, if you feel that you didn't get enough, don't worry, because there are some creative shots to top
if you need a shot
off. Exactly. Top of the drink. Right?
All right.
It's gonna be beautiful.
All right, let me grab my glass.
Grab your empty glass, and we're
all right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See you next time. Bye.